The moment he pushed open the bathroom door, soaked in the pale gold of a quiet morning, he froze. His heartbeat slammed against his ribs as he stared at the fog, blurred mirror, and at the faint silhouette of a woman standing inside the shower area, behind the curtain he knew he had left open the night before. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He had lived alone with his 6-year-old daughter for almost 4 years, long enough to know every sound, every shadow, every creak of their small apartment. But this was something he had never expected to see. As he took a hesitant step forward, the curtain slowly shifted, and the woman's voice, soft, trembling, unfamiliar, broke the silence in a way that made every hair on his arms rise. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected moments that change lives forever, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to 4K Stories. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach more people who need them. His name was Arion Hale, a single father whose life had been reshaped by loss and rebuilt through love, though the cracks still ran deep. Most mornings were a blur of preparing simple breakfasts, tying tiny shoelaces, and packing little lunchboxes decorated with stickers his daughter insisted made her food taste happier. But this morning had begun unusually heavy. Arion had spent most of the night awake, worrying about bills he couldn't cover, a job interview he feared he wouldn't get, and the constant ache of trying to be everything at once: mother, father, provider, protector. He had dragged himself from bed hoping a hot shower would shake the exhaustion off his bones. Instead, he found himself staring at a stranger whose presence felt like a break in reality. The woman stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide, her hands trembling just enough to show that she, too, was afraid. She looked young, maybe late 20s, with an expression caught somewhere between apology and desperation. Her clothes were damp, clinging to her as though she had been outside in the cold before slipping into the bathroom. When she spoke again, her voice cracked, as if she had rehearsed the words in her head but still wasn't ready to say them aloud. She told him she wasn't there to steal, hurt, or cause any trouble. She told him she needed help, real help, and that she had nowhere else to go. Arion's breath shook as he processed everything. He should have been angry or terrified, but something in the woman's eyes felt painfully familiar. The helplessness of someone who had run out of places to run. Her name, she said, was Mireya, and she had been hiding near the apartment complex for 2 nights, after fleeing a dangerous situation she couldn't return to. When she saw Arion leave early for work the previous day, she slipped inside the stairwell and stayed there through the freezing night. And when she heard him and his daughter come home in the evening, she panicked, slipping into the unlocked bathroom during the chaos of school bags, dinner, and bedtime stories. She had been too afraid to reveal herself until now. Arion's instincts warred within him. On one hand, he had his daughter, little Zara, to protect. On the other hand, he recognized the raw truth in Mireya's shaking voice. He didn't know her story fully yet, but he knew suffering when he saw it. And despite everything life had taken from him, Arion had never lost the gift of empathy. Exhaustion had weathered him, yes, but it had also softened him in ways hardship sometimes does, carving out space for compassion where bitterness could have taken root. He asked Mireya to step out of the bathroom, into the living room where sunlight poured across the wooden floor, warming the air. There, with trembling hands wrapped around a cup of water, she shared pieces of her story. Not every detail, but enough to paint a picture that made Arion's chest tighten. She had been trying to escape an abusive relationship, one that had escalated to violence only days earlier. She had gone to a shelter only to find it full. She had slept behind dumpsters, under staircases, in alleyways, and eventually fate or desperation had led her into Arion's building. The morning stretched into a muted conversation of broken pieces, small hopes, and fragile trust. Arion listened because he knew how rare it was for someone to ask for help without conditions, without pride. Mireya apologized repeatedly for intruding, ready to leave at any moment, but Arion surprised himself when he asked her to wait, at least until he figured out what to do next. Zara eventually woke up and walked into the living room, rubbing her sleepy eyes, her wild curls bouncing as she ran to her father. She stared curiously at Mireya, who managed a small smile that held more sadness than joy. Zara, in her innocence, smiled back without hesitation. Children have a way of seeing people for who they are, not for what they've been through. Over the next few hours, Arion decided to call a women's support line, hoping to secure a safe place for Mireya. But the line informed him that shelters in their area were still full and waiting lists long. They advised him on temporary steps, public aid centers, drop-in services, emergency rooms, but none offered immediate refuge. Mireya's eyes dimmed with every option that fell apart. Arion could see she was fighting not to cry, pressing her lips together to keep the fragile pieces of her dignity from breaking. He made a decision then, a quiet, steady decision that rose from a part of him he thought grief had buried. He offered her a place to stay, just for a few days, until something opened up. Mireya refused at first, almost horrified at the idea of burdening them further, but Arion assured her she was not a burden, and Zara chimed in with a simple, innocent, "You can stay. Daddy makes yummy pancakes." Those first days were cautious. Mireya kept to herself, helping around the apartment, folding laundry, sweeping floors, washing dishes, simple acts that helped her feel less like a shadow hiding in someone else's home. Arion, meanwhile, carried the weight of responsibility carefully, aware of boundaries but also aware of the humanity in letting someone in. He watched as Zara slowly warmed to Mireya, offering her drawings, asking her to braid her hair, showing her toys with unfiltered joy. Small moments began changing the atmosphere within the apartment. Mireya's laughter was rare but real when it came. Arion noticed how Zara's world seemed a little brighter, how their home felt a little less heavy. He wondered if he, too, was healing in ways he had not recognized. It wasn't that he needed someone to fill the silence in his life. He had already learned to live with silence. But having someone in the home who understood hardship without judgment, who walked gently and spoke softly as though afraid to disturb the peace, made Arion realize how lonely he had truly been. As days turned into a week, Mireya found the courage to contact legal services, guided by Arion's support. She managed to secure a temporary protective order. A local outreach program finally located a safe housing option for her, though it wouldn't be available for another few weeks. Arion insisted she stay until then. She insisted she would accept only if she could help pay for groceries or childcare in some way. Arion gently refused the money, but welcomed the help, mostly because it made her feel capable again. One sunny afternoon, while Zara napped and the warm air carried the faint scent of the lavender candle Mireya had lit, Arion finally asked her the question he had been holding back. What was she planning to do once she moved into the new place? Her answer was quiet but hopeful. She said she wanted to rebuild, not just her life but herself. She wanted to work again, study again, trust life again. She said she didn't know how yet, but for the first time in a long while, she believed it was possible. Arion felt something shift inside him at those words. Not romantic affection, but a deep human connection. The kind that forms when two people who have been broken in different ways recognize strength in each other. He told her quietly that she was stronger than she realized. Mireya looked away, tears filling her eyes, because no one had told her that in years. As the weeks passed, the household settled into a rhythm that felt almost like healing disguised as routine. Mireya helped Zara with small art projects, listened to Arion talk about his job interviews, and sometimes even let herself relax enough to watch a sunset from their tiny balcony. The world outside was still uncertain, but inside the apartment, something gentle was growing. Trust, safety, perhaps even a new beginning for all of them. And when the day finally came for Mireya to move into her new housing program, The goodbye was heavier than any of them expected. Zara clung to her with teary eyes. Arion carried her small bag silently, unsure whether saying too much or too little would make the moment harder. Mireya hugged them both, whispering her gratitude with a voice thick with emotion. Gratitude for shelter, for kindness, for a place where she discovered she was more than her scars. Just before stepping out the door, she turned to Arion and said something that stunned him, not because it was loud, but because it was honest. She told him he had saved her life, not in a dramatic, heroic way, but in the quiet way that truly mattered. She said he showed her not all doors were closed, not all strangers were dangerous, and not all men were capable of harm. And she said she hoped, one day, she could repay that kindness to someone else in need. Arion watched her leave with a heart full of something warm and heavy, a mixture of pride, sadness, and hope. Life had brought him a challenge he never expected, and in helping someone else stand again, he too found a part of himself rising from the weight of his past. He closed the door softly, knowing that some moments in life, though brief, leave marks that stay forever. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to 4K Stories. Your support helps keep these emotional, life-changing stories alive.